Tales from the Treehouse.
Hello, I'm Ben from Treehouse Theatre. I'm going to tell you a story, an old story, a myth or legend. These stories have been with us for hundreds, sometimes thousands of years. There are stories like them in every society and every ancient civilization that the world has ever seen. They often tell us things about how people understood the world, or how it comes to be how it is. And even if the stories aren't true in a literal way, they always tell us something about what people are like, or what life is for. So relax, shut your eyes, and enjoy the pictures of the story coming into your mind. Here we go. The Magic Paintbrush. Long ago, in ancient China, there was a poor boy called Liang. More than anything in the world, he wanted to paint. But he didn't have enough money to buy a paintbrush. He was so poor. So he had to draw with burnt sticks on the rocks instead. But you know what? His drawings were so good. He could draw anything he wanted to. If he could see a picture in his mind, he could copy it down with a burnt stick on a rock. But he wished that he could paint as well. If he had colours to work with, what could he do then? But he couldn't afford any paint. He couldn't afford any paintbrushes. He had to make do with what he had. Now every day he had to go and work in the fields. And one day he was on his way home from working when he passed a school. Now he didn't go to school because poor children didn't in those days, because you had to pay. But he wanted to go. He had a look through the open window, and there, inside, was a teacher painting at an easel. He had loads of paintbrushes. Liang so wanted one that he was brave enough to stick his head through the window, and he said, "Excuse me, sir, may I have a paintbrush, please? I can't afford one. I'd love to paint more than anything in the world."
"What?" said the teacher. "How dare you, you smelly little oik, begging in my school? Painting is for children who can afford it, not for poor people who should be working in the fields. Go away, never come back."
Poor Liang went home and went to bed. He had an empty belly too. He had so little food in the house. But that night he had the strangest dream. He dreamt that he was in bed, and a wise old man appeared to him, holding a beautiful golden paintbrush.
"Liang,"
he said in a kindly voice,
"you are a good boy, and you have a special talent. You should be painting. So take this paintbrush. It's for you, but this is no ordinary paintbrush. It will punish the wicked, but reward the good-hearted. You must be careful how you use it. People who use it for selfish means will find out that it is not for that purpose. But you are a good boy. That is why you have been chosen to have it. Good luck, and many blessings, little one."
And he disappeared. What a funny dream, thought Liang when he woke up the next morning. And then he felt something under his hand. It was the paintbrush from the dream. It was real. "I have my very own paintbrush," cried Liang. Straight away he wanted to paint. He decided to paint a bird on the wall. Of course, he didn't have any paint. But as he drew the paintbrush across the wall, whatever colour he wanted came out of the end of it. "So that's why it's magic," thought Liang. "Wow!" But as he finished his painting, the bird flew out of the wall, flapped around the room, spilled a mug of water off the shelf onto Liang's head, and then flew out of the window and out over the rooftops and away. "My painting's come to life!" cried Liang as he wiped water happily from his eyes. "This is amazing. I'm so hungry. I wonder if I can paint my breakfast." So he painted a bowl of noodles and spring vegetables, and it came to life too. It tasted great. So Liang never had to be hungry again. He was so happy, but then he remembered what the old man had said, that the paintbrush had to be used to help other people. He remembered he had a friend down the road, a man whose horse had died, and he needed his horse to plough the fields, so he was going hungry. So Liang went and painted him a new horse. He painted food for people who were hungry, and he painted a roof for a man whose roof had got blown off in a storm. He made sure everyone had all they needed, and he was never greedy. And so he became famous very quickly, and it wasn't long before the Emperor of China himself heard about Liang. Now, the Emperor of China was the greediest man you can imagine. He was also the richest man you can imagine, the richest man in China. But it wasn't enough for him, because greed is like that. It's never satisfied. You get what you want, and then you just want more and more. And so it was for the emperor. It wasn't enough for him to be the richest man in China. He wanted to be the richest man in the world, and I wonder, even if he had been, if that would have been enough for him. And the emperor's name was Big Long Wee. He had Liang brought to him and said, "You boy, you will paint me whatever I like, starting with enough gold to fill a cart." "I'm sorry, Your Highness, but you don't need enough gold to fill a cart. You already have plenty of food and money. It wouldn't be right to paint your gold, so I'm afraid I can't do it."
"What?"
said Big Long Wee.
"Take him away and lock him up in the cold stable," said the emperor. "He will paint for me when he starts to freeze out there."
And the emperor's guards did just that. So there was Liang, cold and hungry, but he still had the paintbrush. So what did he paint to make himself warm? Yeah, a fire. And he was hungry, so he painted himself some rice, and he was sat there quite happy. The guards saw him making himself comfortable through a little spy hole in the door and went to fetch the emperor. But before they could come back, Liang took the paintbrush, painted himself a door in the stable wall, and escaped. But even though he'd got away, Liang knew that he was not safe anymore, not at home, not anywhere where the emperor's men could find him. He heard that the emperor had put out a notice saying that anyone who brought Liang to him would get a reward. If he went around painting things that came to life all the time, it wouldn't be long before somebody found him. So he couldn't do that anymore. But he just wanted to be an artist, really. Wasn't there any way he could do that and just make a living? Then he realised that whenever he painted things that came to life, he had to finish the painting first. What if he didn't finish the paintings? So he got a piece of paper and he painted himself a lady, but he didn't paint one of her earrings. He just left that off. Now, he just got that far when a man came along and saw his painting and said,
"My word, that's a fine piece of work. I say, I don't suppose you're selling it, are you?"
And Liang said, yes, I could be."
How much do you want for it?"
What would you like to pay?" said Liang. And the man said,
"Here, is this enough?"
And he poured into Liang's hand enough money for him to live for a good 2 weeks. "Oh, thank you," said Liang. "Here you go." And the man rolled up the painting and took it away with a big smile on his face. Liang realised this is how he could live. And so every week he went to the market. He painted pictures that he didn't quite finish, and people loved them. He sold them, and he could have gone on like that, living in that way for many, many years. Except one day he was in the market painting a goat. His plan was to leave off the end of the goat's beard, and he was just doing the rest of the goat's beard just before he finished, when on the other side of the marketplace a man came in with a cartload of pumpkins. Now his horse trod on a dog's paw, and the dog turned round and went, "Ruff!" The horse went, reared up, and as he did so the cart tipped up, and all the pumpkins fell off the back. They rolled around on the floor. A man slipped on one of them and bumped into a lady, who bumped into another man, who bumped into another man, who bumped into a lady, who bumped into Liang's arm, just as Liang was about to lift the paintbrush off the paper. And it accidentally finished off the goat's beard. The goat jumped out of the painting and started running around the marketplace going, "Meh, meh," butting people, and then it ate a man's hat. Well, you don't have goats magically come to life off a piece of paper and then run around eating people's hats without people noticing. And someone put two and two together, realised that this must be the boy the emperor was looking for, and told Big Long Wee about it. And so it wasn't long before Liang was back in front of the Emperor again.
So, this time you will be locked up in the dungeon, and I will take away that paintbrush first,
said the Emperor. So Liang was thrown into the dungeon, and Big Long Wee, taking the paintbrush, thought to himself,
now I can paint whatever I like. Let's see. I'll start by making some gold coins.
He went into a room that had been specially prepared with some paper, and with the paintbrush he painted a gold coin. It fell out onto the table in front of him with a little chink. Then he did another, and another, and another, until he had a whole pile of coins. But as he finished, and as he laughed to himself,
yes, I'm going to be the richest man in the world,
all the coins started to shake and vibrate, and the very top coin flew off the pile and whacked the Emperor in the face.
Oh!
And then another, and another, and another, until he was being pummeled with them. He had to run out of the room, shut the door. He could hear them on the other side going,
oh, what am I going to do?
I know, I'll paint a gold bar instead. So he went into another room that had been prepared with paper, and he painted a gold bar. It fell out onto the table with a clank, and then it started to grow, longer and thinner and thinner and longer. Then it grew a head with a tongue coming out. It was a snake, a long golden snake, big enough to eat the Emperor himself, and it chased him round and round the room with the Emperor going, leave me alone. He ran out of the room, shut the door and bolted it.
It seems I cannot paint these things myself. Bring Liang to me,
he said, and so Liang was brought up from the dungeon. The Emperor said to him,
well, it seems you have to do this painting after all. So, here you are, here is the paintbrush. And how about I give you a reward for working for me instead? If you paint me whatever I like, you will be able to marry my daughter.
And in came the princess. She wasn't the beautiful princess that you might imagine. She was a spoilt little piggy of a girl. As soon as she saw her father, she stamped her foot on the ground and said,
Daddy, I want a pony.
Oh, dear, you already have at least 17 ponies. You don't need a...
Daddy, I want a black and white one. I haven't got a black and white pony. I want a black and white pony. And if you don't give me a black and white pony, I'm going to scream.
We don't want that, do we? Guards, will you please get her a black and white pony?
Anyway, Liang, will you marry my daughter?
Liang said, no, I don't want to.
Well, in that case, if you don't paint me what I like, I'll have you killed,
said Big Long Wee. Very well, said Liang. Now he saw he had no choice. Good, said the Emperor.
So I would like you to paint, the seaside. I've never been to the seaside. Princess, would you like that? Oh, yes, Daddy. Yes, paint the sea. Paint the sea, Liang, and the beach. Go on.
And so Liang did. He painted the sea and the sand.
Now paint some creatures to go in the sea. I want to enjoy looking at them.
So Liang did. All the sorts of creatures you can think of that would be in the sea. You know, dolphins, crabs, fish, everything.
Good, said the Emperor. So now paint me a boat, a sailing boat, so we can sail on the sea and enjoy all these things.
And so Liang did. And the Emperor, the Princess, and the guards all got on board. But the boat wasn't going anywhere. So the Emperor said,
Liang, we need some wind. Paint some wind, Liang.
I'm afraid I can't paint the wind, Your Majesty, because you can't see it.
Well, in that case, paint something to make some wind. I know,
said the Princess suddenly.
What, dear? Make him paint a dragon.
What?
A dragon, Daddy. Yes, a dragon. A dragon can make some wind, and then afterwards I can keep him as a pet. Better than a pony.
Dear, you can't have a dragon as a pet. A dragon is an ancient and intelligent creature that...
Daddy, I want a dragon. I demand to have a dragon. If you don't give me a dragon, then I will scream.
No, we don't want that, do we? Liang, paint her a dragon. "If you say so, Your Majesty." And so Liang did. He painted a beautiful ancient water dragon. It had enormous wings, a great long neck, horns on its head, tendrils of algae dripping from its face, and huge sharp teeth. And its eyes, its enormous eyes, were as deep as oceans. You swore if you looked into them, you could see the beginning of the universe. And the dragon said,
"Yes, what is your will?"
And the emperor said, "Ah, good, dragon, I want you to make some wind."
"As you wish,"
said the dragon, and it took a great breath of air and blew. And the wind filled the sails of the boat, and it started to skim across the water. "Ah, yes, that's perfect," said Big Long Wee. "Keep doing that, just that." "Oh, Daddy, this is so much fun." But the dragon didn't stop there. It took another breath. The waves started to get bigger. "Actually, you don't need to do it any harder than that. That's fine, thank you very much," said Big Long Wee. But the dragon still didn't stop. The waves got bigger and bigger, and the boat was thrown from side to side. "Oh, Daddy, make it stop," said the princess. "Yes, dragon, stop. That's quite enough. You really have to stop." And the dragon didn't stop. It took another enormous breath of air. And this time, the air was whipped into the biggest wave you can imagine. It was 3 times taller than the boat. It went over and down onto the boat with an enormous crash. The boat was smashed into 100,000 pieces, and the emperor and his daughter and the guards sank to the bottom of the sea and were never seen again. And so Liang was left in the emperor's palace with all his riches. And he was so popular after everything he'd done for the people that they made him their new emperor. And he shared out the emperor's wealth amongst all the people of China and reigned happily for many years to come. And that's the end of my tale, as I heard it said, and if there's a fib in it, I'm off home to bed. I hope you enjoyed our story today. If you want more, just subscribe to our YouTube channel or our blog. And if you'd like to draw or paint a picture to go with the story, we'd love to put it on the video or on the website. So please share it with us by taking a photo and sending it to treehousetheatre.com, or you can share it with us on our Facebook page. So until next time, cheerio!
Tales from the Treehouse.